welcome to Afflictions Sugarcoated, a podcast where we sugarcoat some of the world's so-called afflictions and rate their plausibility on a scale of 1 to 5. I'm Minnie Kim, and today we'll be sugarcoating compliments. So if you're anyone like me, you'll know how the social construct of socializing is pretty much facile. It usually goes like this. Say you don't know anyone in a confined place, and then everyone else knows everyone else, but then there's that one person who also doesn't know anyone, so you're saying, yes, I'll go talk to them. They're probably thinking the same thing, so you make eye contact. And the routine is very predictable. Hey, what's your name? Vice versa. Where are you from? Reciprocated. And if they're from somewhere interesting, the real conversation starts off with, I really love K dramas or K pop. But if you're not from anywhere interesting, or if you don't really know where that person's from, you give up. And I can speak from a girl's experience because I know that this is pretty much different for boys the majority of times. Like, I'm not pointing any fingers here, but honestly, I feel like it's a vibe for them, but who am I to say? Anyways, what girls resort to is pretty simple: looks, hair, eyes, jeans, shirt, sweatshirt, etc. Because it's so easy and we tend to dress up more. And then that will also be reciprocated, the compliments. And that's usually how you make a friend. Because by then, other interesting things come to your mind. But for people like me who don't dress up with yoga pants or tank tops or have blue or green eyes, this is not how it goes. We go all the way back to the first part where we ask the two basic questions, and then afterwards, it's done. A quick, nice to meet you. And then a few hours later, you'll see that same person hanging out with another group. Wow. How easy would socializing be if I had really, really pretty hair? But no, if you can't tell, I was in an orientation program for my school some weeks ago, and with a particularly large crowd. This happens all the time. I met about 40 people and exchanged our names, where we were from, and I don't remember anyone because after 3 seconds of awkward silence, I said, well, it was nice meeting you. Especially because I've only just gotten into the practice of professional socialization that I think of it as too much of a formula. First this, then this, then this, and always say it was nice meeting you. Because nice to meet you is kind of old fashioned. It's quite interesting how much compliments can go in this study, though. Not only because A, it gives you time before you can think of new things to talk about, and B, it takes real care to notice something unique about a person. Attention to detail is what they call it. I call it trying to socialize. And this need to do this really, really burns a fire up your ass, for the lack of a better term. So, why don't we do this compliment thing? Probably because we hear it every day, and it's probably about the same thing. It doesn't always have to be genuine. Something worthy of notice is really all we need. But I, for one, have trouble with compliments. For starters, they must be reciprocated. If someone says something about how they like my jeans, although I really can tell that they don't, I gotta find something about them that I like. It's sometimes easy because some of them are objectively good on them, but other times it feels a bit forced. And I'll do this hand motion where I throw it into the air, and, like, that thing when people scoff, and it makes me sound sarcastic. And they, as emotionally intelligent people smart enough to throw a compliment in the first place, can pretty much tell my hesitation the majority of times. But also, in between our exchange, we have to respond to the compliment. And I find the responding part pretty much hard. And yes, I know a thank you is very easy to say. And even though I know the right way to say it, It's that high pitched oh for a millisecond, followed by an even higher thank you. And the you has to be very long. And then you reciprocate the compliment about their hair or something. But as you can often tell, I have a pretty low voice, so it doesn't always work out in the first place. And I have a face that often can't smile in the face of these events. My default face is pretty much mean, and people don't like it. But also, I just cannot stand to simply fit into the whole deal of compliments in our social contract of socializing. So I don't, and I awkwardly stare for a millisecond, then say, for a few seconds, and then questioningly say, thank you. And sometimes when I know something is BS, I call it out and I debate it. I debate the compliment that they give me. I say, really? And I say, it doesn't really look good. I tell them it's really not. This to me sounds very normal, but it's not. And the more I write it out and the more I say it out loud, the more I know that it's not. I saw a video once while scrolling through YouTube shorts that stuck with me for a while, unlike the majority of YouTube shorts videos. It says that the correct answer to any compliment is thank you. Don't doubt if it's an actual compliment, just say thank you. And I'm remembering it just now, right after orientation is over. Google says that the practice of saying thank you started in the 14th century. The phrase, quote unquote, thank you has been used for hundreds of years, with the first known use of thanks before the 12th century. The phrase is a shortened version of I thank you. The word, quote unquote, thank comes from the Latin word tongere, and I'm pretty sure I'm saying that wrong. I'm just doing it in a French pronunciation, which has the root tong, meaning think. Why think? Nobody knows. The practice of saying please and thank you became more common during the commercial revolution in the 16th and 17th centuries. So I guess during the revolution, they had a lot of times when they had to say thank you, which I guess makes sense. People worked a lot. As for compliments, I'm guessing that people kissed each other's asses. That was just common sense from the beginning of time. Even our ancient selves and ancestors were able to socialize by complimenting one another because it felt good, or maybe it was more genuine. Perhaps it was more genuine. Or perhaps meeting new people was just as facile as it was from the very, very beginning. But I think to some extent, there is a certain beautiful mercy in saying thank you. It's said so common nowadays that it just doesn't go as far, but maybe I was raised in a kind neighborhood where everyone said thank you and where everyone said bless you when everyone sneezed. I know that some people would kill to hear a thank you for an everyday job, especially working for minimum wage. A thank you, I think, in that situation can go a very long way. So, compliments, though they are such a strain for me in everyday life, are maybe the only reasons that some people keep doing it, keep going. Perhaps for validation, but also because they feel like they're doing the right thing for the right people who appreciate what they're doing. That's why there are so many thank you cards and thank you mottos. We thank our teachers. And that's just from a student's perspective. We basically thank everyone. There is a quote, however, that goes like this: thank you doesn't even begin to cover how grateful I am. This is great because it doesn't end with the words thank you, it ends with an acknowledgement of our extent to how grateful we can actually be. Or maybe it's just semantics too. But either way, it's just the best we can do. Because thank you for 200 downloads of this podcast that he started knowing nothing. I can't even begin to cover how grateful I am. And I think that should be enough sugarcoating. So I give your sugarcoating of compliments a 3.5. This podcast was written and produced by me, Minnie Kim. If you have any comments or reviews, please feel free to write any and all thoughts on your podcast reviews. If you'd like to suggest an affliction for me to sugarcoat, please email me via afflictionsugarcoated@gmail.com. Just spell out the name of the podcast and then add @gmail.com. But on a more serious note, I am genuinely thank you for everyone listening to this podcast. The whole rant was just because of the orientation, but also because I went into Buzzsprout one day and then saw that I had 207 downloads for my podcast. So I hope that I brought a smile to your face at least once throughout this podcast, but also throughout the many, many episodes that I've done throughout the past 2 years already. That's crazy. Actually, it might be 3 years. I gotta check. Because honestly, there's nothing more than a compliment that I can give you guys right now. I think that you have a really nice personality because you're listening and giving a small kid hope right now. Maybe not small, but maybe you'll think of a compliment when you see me.